and they did find out that he was murdered, and there was a conspiracy. But they were never able to convict anybody.
Does this indicate that the Freemasons are intrinsically evil?
Of course, no. I am absolutely not saying that. I'm saying that they have a potential for evil. Any organization where you don't have any control over it, you don't have any checks and balances. Look, John F. Kennedy, he came out and specifically said, we cannot have secret societies if we're going to be an open society. And he came out and he was dead a few months later after he said that. And also, can I just add that if you look at all of the people on the Warren Commission, except for one who was in the Knights of Columbus, they were all Freemasons. Knights of Columbus also are Freemasons. And the one person who said, no, this investigation is a crock, he ended up dying in a plane crash. Nobody ever even found him. His plane went down in Alaska, and nobody ever even found him. So.
Yeah. And by the way, Matthew, you thought that the interview was at an end. It's not. We're just getting warm. We're just getting warmed up.
Super.
Now, let's move on to something else. Everyone, well, I won't say everyone, but the men in the street, people like me, trace the Freemasons back to the Templars, and there's all this wonderful talk. Dan Brown rattles on about it. The great treasure that the Templars had, and I think it's fair to say that the Templars did have great treasure, because when they weren't fighting, they were banking. What do you think the really great treasure was, and what happened to it?
I think it went to Switzerland. I think after when in 1305, when the Pope declared the Freemasons anathema is the word that I'm looking for, and they declared them an outlaw organization, and they killed Jacques de Molay. There's this idea that suddenly the Catholic Church went and they surprised these people in their homes and their beds, and they got them all. They only got a few. I mean, they only actually killed a few dozen, and most of them were able to escape or just go into hiding. And there's a few books out where they talk about there were the Swiss, the territory that we know as Switzerland, suddenly became very militaristic, and they fought a battle with Italy and actually beat them horribly, and they say that they were held by these mercenaries. And so I believe that much of the Freemasons went into Switzerland, and that's why you have Swiss banks that are so steeped in secrecy. That because and let's just go back again. I need to backtrack into the Crusades. Okay, so what were the Templars? The Templars were basically not only bankers. They started out as the first tour group. When the Jerusalem fell, people in Europe could not wait to get down and make their holy pilgrimage to the land of where Jesus walked, right? But the problem was from everywhere, from all the way from Germany to Italy and on the route down, they were subject to being robbed and killed by marauders. So what the Freemasons did, or the Templars did, was they offered a package where you would be protected from place to place, and when you got to Jerusalem, you could go and be relatively safe in your going around to the holy sites. Now, the Templars also invented the system of banking or of credit. So you would pay your money in your home country, and they would give you a voucher or something, and then you would just get, I don't know how it worked, but you would get punched as you went along. And so they had the first credit cards. And so they were a very, very, very forward-thinking group. And think about your modern banks, not the mall bank, but your modern bank, like built before the 70s or 80s. These were very strong brick structures, right? Who builds brick structures? You know, that's what the Freemasons needed to show that they were secure. And then that also went into castle building as well.
Yeah, this is what I find most curious. I've spent a good deal of time recently watching a BBC series. British series. Not sure B put it out. All about archaeology, particularly the Romans in Britain, and you know how the Romans started producing stone forts rather than wood forts, and very much they seem to have started the whole stone construction. And you're saying the Templars were part of that movement, because certainly after the Romans left England in 400 AD, the place went to rack and ruin. You know, back to wood rather than stone. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a very good point. I make that point in my book, and that's something that I had just, come across from my study of history, is that if you look in European history before the Crusades, most of the castles were what was called a motte and bailey structure. It was a hill with pikes or a wooden fence at the bottom of the hill. At the top of the hill was the structure where the family or the lord actually lived, and then when at the time of attack, the peasants could come in and hide behind the wooden walls of the fort. Suddenly, after the Crusades started, these amazing structures started appearing back in England, and the difference between the Roman and the post-Crusade construction is, and I'm pretty sure about this, I will check my facts, but I'm pretty sure that they did not have the technology for a keystone. And now a keystone, for those of you who don't know anything about stone masonry, a keystone is the block at the top of an arch that everything rests upon, that the whole weight of the arch rests upon, and that carries the load of that structure of that arch. And so until they had that technology, they couldn't build the amazing castles that they build in Europe. Okay, so so where did they get to technology first of all? Well, when you look at and let's just look at evidence. We talk about, you say, well, there's no scientific evidence, but let's, if somebody's dead in the street and they've got a bullet hole in it, it's pretty apparent that somebody shot them. So if you look at the evidence, look at Croix de Chevalet, but I think you know what I'm talking about, the Crusader castle in Syria. It is an elaborate structure built by people who couldn't even, put together these stone forts that look more like the American frontier, and suddenly they're able to build these amazing structures. Where did they get that knowledge from? They obviously didn't have it before. So who are they working with, and who's teaching them, and what exactly are they teaching them?
All right. If you look at Roman structures, they're quite elaborate, but nothing near the level of the Greek architecture. How do the two interrelate?
I don't think they're. If you're talking about the Parthenon, they don't relate at all. The Parthenon and Greek structure is based upon geometric lines. These guys are talking about building structures where, and I know the Parthenon has a lot of really great gimmicks, like the parallax view of how the columns are not really straight, but they made them to look straight as you're looking at them. That's all pretty cool stuff. But as far as being able to create these load-bearing structures, like with arches, and if you go into one, and I'm sure you have, Simon, being from England, but these castles were built with every stone was built for defense, right? So these things were massively thought through, and there didn't seem to be anybody saying, we can't do that, because if you look at Croix de Chevrolet, I can't say it. The horse, they could ride 4 horses abreast up and down the ramparts of that thing. So I think that something happened in the Middle East, and that's when I talk about the Templars and the Freemasons. That's my thing. Something happened during the Crusades, and the evidence is there. The evidence is overwhelming.
Okay. Do you think that the Templars, who certainly came back from the Crusades and started to build these great structures, were influenced by either Romans or Greek society, or something else? I think it was. I think it was both. Simon, and I make this point again and again in my book. I was not there. I don't know. All I can do is find people who are relatively credible, and if what they say is supported by other evidence, then I'll do it. But I will accept it. But I can't say. I think that they definitely had knowledge that the Greeks had, and I think they were indoctrinated into cults because, I know you're not a Catholic, but growing up in the LDS Church, when your whole world is centered on this, this religious thing, it's very hard to incorporate science outside of it, and that's one, or into that knowledge. And that's one thing that's nice about being a Latter-day Saint, is that the Latter-day Saints believe that they want to get all the scientific knowledge that they can because they think that that's how you understand God. So there's not, but the Catholic Church, on the other hand, they don't want anybody understanding anything, at least at that time. And whatever knowledge they had, wherever they got it from, we might never know. They might have got it from UFO people. Who knows? I certainly would like to explore more about what they did find in Solomon's Temple, and if you look at movies that are put out by Freemasons like Lucas and Spielberg, you can see little hints in all of their movies about what these Freemasons are about, and what interests them, and who they are.